Connor, welcome to the 5th No Code Talk. I'm so excited that you're here, that everybody's here. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. There's been a lot happening, but we made it. Thanks for everyone allowing us to delay this multiple times. So, yeah.
So, I have been living in Canada for 30 years now, and I have never been a homeowner. And you, who moved here, what, 6 months ago? How long and you are already a homeowner? A year. It took you 1 year.
Yes.
And you're a Canadian home. You are already higher in the social hierarchy of Canada than I am as a homeowner 1 year.
Yeah.
So, on behalf of myself and everyone, we would just like to congratulate you, and we don't mind you being late for you to become a homeowner. So hats off to you.
Thank you. Yes, it's very exciting.
Hopefully, maybe one day I will also be a homeowner in this great land. But hats off to you. Really exciting. So that's why we're late today. Connor had to go sign and what I imagine is give someone bags of money.
That is pretty much it. Yeah, a lot of paperwork, half an hour of signing things, and then yes, you hand over everything that you have, and then you go about your day.
the Canadian dream. Well, listen, I'm excited. Hey, Chris, welcome to No Code Talk. So yeah, we've got a lot on the agenda. So first, we wanted talk something maybe a little bit different, which is kind of like how we've been automating with physical stuff, right? So Connor and I went down the rabbit hole there. Then we're going to talk about Zapier Transfers, which is, it's been a month. I think you've already done a video on it, so wanted to bring it to everyone. Then Connor, you came to me with an Airtable challenge, if you will, that we're happy to chat about. Mm-hmm. Then I'm going to bring a challenge to you and talk about how I'm thinking of redoing my newsletter and get thoughts from you and from everyone in the audience. And then everyone was nice enough to share a bunch of no-code projects on Twitter yesterday. So we're going to talk a little bit about those. So that's our agenda for today. As always, if you're in the chat and you want to talk about something, let us know. We're just here to have fun an hour every month. So Connor, talk to me a little bit about the toy that you purchased recently and what you use it for.
So this came from Aron's recommendation.
You got to move it a little bit more in front of your face. There we go.
I think it's there we go. A Stream Deck. So the main reason why I got this initially was because I wanted to improve the process for editing my YouTube videos. I made 100 videos and it's just been the most painful process doing tutorials and screen recordings. And then you gave me the rundown about OBS and I was like, what? Why didn't I just listen to you when you told me about that 7 months ago? And so that has been a little bit of a game changer. But then, even better, you said, okay, you should also check out Streamdeck, which is this little toy here, where you can basically control different views from this little pad. So if, for example, you want to...
Connor, move it a little bit to your face. Yeah, there you go. Move it in front of the camera.
So if you want to change the camera angles... You can just press buttons and it will change it automatically for you. And it's just going to really streamline processes for actually making my videos. But this is not about YouTube. So I have also started playing around with it and I found some phenomenal use cases for no code. I'm so excited about this. So as everyone probably knows, I've got 1,000,001 side projects. I've got the Unicorn Factory, Canada and New Zealand, and I also do a little course. And so obviously navigating all the way around that can sometimes be a bit difficult. So what I've done is I've programmed that I can control all of my projects from in here. So let's say I want to work on the Unicorn Factory. I can just click on it, and then I have basically these tabs for opening my Webflow project, which is there. This here links to all of my zaps for the Unicorn Factory. So it's the filtered view. So it's not all the different zaps. It's just specific to the Unicorn Factory. And then I have all of these shortcuts that I can use to basically access things a lot faster. And look, I've been using it for 3 days. So let's put it this way. I'm not an expert on the matter, but let me tell you, it's so much fun and it saves so much time. So yeah, I might make a video about this. at some point because it's absolutely epic. I'm such a fan of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So so maybe some context, because you went from like I know nothing about OBS to like let me tell you the 13 things I've learned in the last 2 days about OBS, and like kind of going way beyond where I am in OBS. So for folks who are not familiar, and if you record videos, I do highly recommend to check out OBS. So OBS is the open broadcast software platform. It's what I'm using to stream to you. And so my whole stream and Airtable stream is in OBS. And if you record multiple things at once, so let's say your browser, your camera, and your audio, OBS lets you manage all of that. But let's say you want to like move. So for instance, let me show you guys. So I don't know if I can show this. You see this little button? So when I'm going to click this button, it's going to bring me and Connor to look smaller, right? There we go. And then I click it again and it brings us taller. But, you know, at its core, it's actually just a keyboard that you can program. Right? So you can say, when I click this button, click, you know, go to this URL in Chrome or open this application and then do these other 4 things. And so it's extremely useful if you're like a shortcut person and want to kind of program those shortcuts in the tools that you use. So I've been really impressed with how Connor has been using it, because he's taken it from like, I use it for recording to basically automating anything. And before people ask, yes, you can trigger webhooks on this thing. So you could imagine like running an API to whatever and like, you know, automating your lunch or whatever. I know Steven has been doing some cool things with not a Stream Deck, but just keyboard shortcuts and things like that. But yeah, that's it. I thought it would be kind of cool to talk about not tool automation, but actual physical automation. So I'm curious, Connor, what's your next thing you want to tackle with your Stream Deck?
I'm gonna get so carried away with this, I know already. Like, I feel about the Stream Deck the way that I felt about like Zapier when I discovered it for the first time. I'm gonna automate absolutely everything. So because we're moving into the new house in about a week and a bit, I've already been looking into like setting up lighting and stuff that I can connect to the Stream Deck. So I'm gonna do some of that stuff. I didn't actually know about the whole webhook thing. I did look it up, and the only like integration tool that they have is if this then that, which is like, okay, why that? But now that I know that you can use webhooks, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna come up with some fancy things. And yeah, I don't know. I feel there's so many use cases for this that I'm just gonna explore. I've been watching a lot of tutorials, so I'm coming up with a lot of ideas.
Yeah, so I think one thing about the webhook thing, and I'll quickly speak about this, is that let me just kind of go down, you know, and this is the Stream Deck interface here, right? And I just took website as the kind of shortcut, right? So I put website. But when you think of what a webhook is, it's just a specific URL with some parameters, right? So if your parameter would be like trigger, like it could be just a Zapier URL plus is blank, right? Because there's no input, because it won't take an input. It could if you wanted to, right? But then you can do a get request in the background. And so you're able to trigger a webhook from your Stream Deck. And that could be integrating directly with Zapier. So when receive webhook, go ahead and do these things. But I think you can also just trigger it like an API via the URL, as long as it's like fully contained in the URL. So, this might be like on the advanced side. I think everyone, you know, would love and benefit from a Stream Deck if you are kind of like us and super geeky. But you can trigger automations and API specifically in the backend.
Look, now we're truly automating all the things.
Truly. Before this, it was automating some of the things, but now we're automating all the things. So Jake is here. So we can talk smack about other tools. So Connor, if you've been holding back, just know that, you know, we can now talk crap about other tools. So Jake, happy to have you here. Go ahead, Connor. What were you gonna say?
Oh, actually, all I was gonna say is that yesterday evening I was looking up like things like smart ovens so that you can turn your oven on with like your thing. So yeah, there's gonna be much more to come. It's going to be quite funny. I reckon I'm going to automate some dumbass
Yeah. I agree. So, So, folks, let us know if you have a Stream Deck. So there were some Christopher, streams from it. Common use case, and it's kind of cool. I wonder how you adjust volume. So, if you've got a tutorial for doing that, let me know. I'd love to see it. Fraser, get yourself a Stream Deck. That's all. I wish I had like a referral link. I'm actually just hucking this because I think it's a really cool tool. So. Cool. Well, speaking of new stuff, let me go ahead and move. There we go. Let's talk about Zapier Transfers. So I think you've used it. I've only kind of perused it. So maybe, Connor, give us an intro into Transfer by Zapier. What have you found? What are some resources that folks can go to?
Okay. So I had a little play around with it. So it is still in beta. So it's the first iteration of it. There's still a few things missing that I'm assuming that they're working on right now. But in a nutshell, up until this point, Zapier has been really good for automating individual workflows. So one-off tasks. For example, I receive an email, then do this, then do that. But whenever you wanted to do batch automation, so take, say, an entire database in Google Sheets and transfer it over to Airtable, then you kind of could do it in Zapier, but it would require a lot of hacking. And oftentimes it wasn't super reliable. So you'd use a tool like Parabola or even Integromat. And now Zapier has released their own internal solution to this problem called Transfers. And so the idea is that you can basically bulk automate like certain workflows. And I had to play around with it. It's pretty cool. I mean, like, it does kind of what you expect it would do. I set up a pretty simple workflow where I transferred data from Airtable to Google Sheets. And yeah, I mean, it works. There are definitely like a few things that they'll need to improve on, a few additional features that they'll need to add. But overall, if you are familiar with Zapier and you've been looking for something that allows you to basically automate a lot of workflows at once, then this might be it.
So I have a few questions, and I think I speak for most folks. So I'm here on the landing page. Like, is this in like a timed sync? So it's saying like set the time. I want to sync it every 5 minutes, or is it like sync it once? Right? Is it a button I need to press and then it syncs it, and then I have to go back to Zapier to sync it again?
Yeah, so the workflow that I set up was I clicked the button, but I'm pretty sure that they allow you to do it. I'm not sure, actually. That's a good question. I didn't test that, but I'm pretty sure once you set it up, you can just jump in there and hit the play button whenever you want. So I don't think it's currently set up to be on a schedule or any of that stuff. From what I can see, you can't even really trigger it through an actual Zap at this stage. So you can't set up like a
webhook,
a normal Zap, and then trigger transfers as a result of something happening in normal Zapier. So I think right now it's pretty simple and straightforward in the sense that you have to run it manually. So I think the main use case that they're solving for in this first version is just data transfer.
So it's like, I want to kind of sync this information, send it once, right? Like a one-time thing, and I just want this information that's here, and I want to map it to some fields that are over there once, and then I'm done.
Correct. And you can only connect one step to the other at the moment. So you can't do multiple things. So I think the main use case of it would be is, say you want to switch CRMs, or say you want to switch from Google Sheets to Airtable, or you want to like, I don't know, download something as a CSV file, something like that. That is what this use case is designed for. Again, I can't imagine that this is where things will stop. Like, it's still in beta, so I assume a lot of additional features will come. But at the moment, it's simply one source, one destination, and you can then map up all of your different fields the way that you would if you were setting up a normal Zap.
Okay. Okay, so it's going to be interesting. I think, what's interesting is for me, I understand why Zapier wants to solve for this, right? But I also think sync is going to require something a little different than what Zapier is used to, in the sense of like, there are actually not that many. Like, I want my sync to live in the tool that I need it to, right? Like, I think Airtable obviously is like a good example of what I want sync to be. And I don't want it to be like, have me press a button. And I don't think we want to trigger syncs at like in a moment of the workflow. I think it's just something that's like on in the background. I think what's more interesting, and where I hope like sync providers are going to go, is that mapping is hard, right? I don't know if you've experienced this. Like, the way I map Airtable to Webflow is not actually straightforward. It's not just like take this value, send it there. It's actually like you need to create a data structure that is across your very many tools, right? So maybe you have an ID that you want to send across all of your tools all the time. And so I'm excited for like the first sync partner that'll do like, okay, take all of your information and create like almost like a data structure that you then send to other places. So I haven't seen that yet, right? I think everyone's kind of approaching it like, yeah, let's just sync this to that. But as a business, as like someone who manages a lot of databases in different places, like it becomes difficult for me to sync to one another, just being like, okay, let's sync every 2 minutes. So that's my thought on this. That's where I hope people will go. But I do see why Zapier is like kind of way behind on this almost.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a lot of use cases for it. I use Parabola a lot. Like, I think Parabola is like a phenomenal tool, and it solves exactly that use case, which is keeping databases in sync at all times. Now, if I'm completely honest, I don't know how Zapier is going to make this work unless they change their pricing model for transfers. Because if I migrated all of my Parabola setup over to Zapier Transfers, assuming they have like some of the additional features that will come, I mean, I would ramp up the credit so fast. Like, so that is like a big one to consider. So I feel like for one-off uses, for example, I want to migrate from one CRM to the other, fantastic. Again,
Right.
the benefits of something like Zapier is it's super easy to learn. You don't need to really know too much about automation in order to get the hang of it. But as soon as you start wanting to set up more complex syncs, like, I don't know, like some things will have to change with Zapier and how they price their services in order for this to be something that might be used for those types of use cases.
So is it still one field synced is one task?
Yeah, so it's not one field, but like one
record. Right.
Yeah, one record, one task.
Wow. Okay, so if I'm migrating like a 50,000 row database, whether that's Excel or whatever, every one of those rows, every one of those syncs counts one against my tasks. So it's like maybe a couple $100 right there.
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
And
well,
like honestly, like I used to hate on Integromat a lot, but that was ignorance. I didn't do my research. But then I started watching Jake's tutorials, and I was like, wait a second. Maybe there's something here. Maybe I should like revisit this. And this is something that Integromat does quite well as well. So I still kind of feel like for individual one-off records, like Zapier is still like the best tool to get into, especially if you're a beginner. But as soon as it comes into database syncing territory, I'm still leaning towards Integromat and Parabola on that one, at least as things stand now. And it's not because of certain features missing. It's because of how Zapier basically prices their service. And like, that's all it comes down to.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I'm very much like, I don't think a couple $100 to transfer tools is that much to ask, but I do get that like it adds up, especially if you're running a bunch of tasks and if you've got a tool that you can run that's better. So we know what Team Jake's on.
I do sync like thousands of records every single day.
Right.
So like with the Unicorn Factory and the other ones, it adds up fast. And like, I agree. I'm like, look, if it gets the job done, like, what's the problem? Like,
Right.
you're saving so much money and time. But again, I think it comes down to opportunity costs of it all. And
Mhm.
I kind of feel like that is currently where I'm kind of like, this is nothing against Zapier. I think Zapier is like a phenomenal tool and I still use it a lot. But like, there are other tools out there that do it just as well. And yeah, I don't know. That's just my position on the matter.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I'm with you. I think there's going to be a sync tool that we're going to use that might be Parabola, but they've gone very much down to e-commerce. I've seen a few. There's some like native to some tools, so you can sync Airtable and Webflow. Within Airtable, Airtable lets you sync into Airtable, but not out of Airtable. So I think sync is like one of those big areas that a lot of people are going to solve in different ways. What I'm hearing from you and from the community is that no one's kind of cracked the nut. And Zapier is like probably going to go a long way for a lot of people, but it's definitely not hitting what you expect from a syncing tool. So I'm curious in the chat, Jake, anyone, Chris, Matt, if you've used Zapier Sync. So I'll disclaimer, I haven't used it. I haven't used Zapier in a little while because Airtable scripting mainly. So yeah, I'm curious to see what people think and let us know if you like it, if you've enjoyed it, and yeah. Any thoughts before we move on here?
No, love Zapier. No hard feelings.
It'll always be our first love, We'll always, every no coder is like, oh yeah, I started with Zapier, and we're like, yeah, me too. And totally agree, Matthew, that like bidirectional sync is the holy grail, and no one's solved it, right? Like I think that's what we're all looking for, and I think there's a lot of technical challenges in it. I think there's a data mapping challenge in it of like you can edit in both places, and what happens if people are editing simultaneously in two places. So yeah, I think it's going to be
amazing.
It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. There's also just a data mapping challenge. How do you map data across different tools, which I think will be, more of a big business type challenge that I'm always thinking about. So, okay. That is, boom, use the Stream Deck, overriding values. So Connor, talk to me a little bit about, so I'm gonna share your base that you came to me with. There we go. Let me share all of this with you, Connor. Okay, talk to me about your base and what challenge you faced, and I'll talk a little bit about how I tried to solve it for you.
Okay. So just make sure that you don't share any email addresses and stuff. But the use cases. Okay, so I've got a workflow that I've got set up here where when a freelance on the Unicorn Factory submits an update for their case studies or their portfolios, I get them to submit it in the table portfolio updates. And then what I do is I then send all of the information that they submitted to the original record, which sits in the portfolio table. So inside of this field here is actually a linked record that gets pulled in by the URL. And so the problem that I was trying to solve is the overriding of information inside of Airtable automations. Now, when I set this up in Zapier, if someone doesn't submit a field, for example, they don't want to update their project title, or they don't want to update their thumbnail or their services that they used, then what Zapier will do is they will just leave the original field, or like it will leave the field in the original record as it is. Okay. Whereas what Airtable does is it says, hey, this is empty. So therefore, we should override the original record with nothing.
Yeah.
So you can see there that we've got a few submissions where we have the hero image, and one of the freelancers submitted an image in it, and everyone else left it blank, which means that they wanted to just update like the project title or whatever.
Yeah.
And so the issue is, how do I map this using Airtable automations?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so
without overriding fields, making it
yeah.
empty.
So let me say in English what you just said, which is essentially the challenge. So the first overarching, not that you're not speaking English, I mean like English as in like for someone who doesn't work all day long in Airtable, the first challenge you're facing is actually one of how do I update information, right? So what you do, I think smartly, and it's kind of like a workaround, you say, okay, submit a record for each update, right? And I'm going to link back to your portfolio and then kind of manually copy paste the overarching fields, the not overarching, like the changed fields, because you don't want to give access to that freelancer to your whole base, right? But you do want to update information in portfolio, right, for that specific person, but you only want to update certain fields. So the first challenge is how do you update information? And you've done it with a separate table that updates that information, which is, frankly, like a kind of workaround, right? Ideally, you'd give everyone access to, so Matthew, great point, like essentially doing a patch call. And that is exactly right. But like, there's no good way to do that because you can't give someone access to only their information in Airtable. That's challenge number one. And you solved that with Base. Challenge number two is that how Airtable automation works is that it inputs the field values for every field that you map. So let's say someone wants to update their image. You're going to say, well, take the value in image and put it into the portfolio. And if that's empty, we'll overwrite the existing value with empty. And that's going to kind of screw up that person's portfolio. What we would love is like an if statement for each field to say, if that field exists, go ahead and update for that specific field that value, right?
Great.
Okay, so we're gonna solve this with button, script, and webhooks. No, I'm joking. We're just gonna handle it with a script. And the reason we're gonna use.
Say quick.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I just want to say quickly that this works in Zapier though without if else statements. Zapier just patches. So like the main inquiry was, is this possible in Airtable automations? Like I know you can do it with scripts, but in case someone's like, oh my goodness, if else statements is going to take so long, this works in Zapier.
Yes. Yeah. And I think in Zapier, it's like the opposite. What you can do in Zapier, I think, is you can input you can say append, essentially, right? So you can say like only add or overwrite if it's not empty, right? How would you do that? How would you tell Zapier? Is it like a toggle?
Free spaces. So you go space, space, space. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
And then it will override it with an empty field.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Okay.
It actually says that there's like a little label or like a little note below each field that explains that.
Yeah. Okay. So you can do this with Airtable automations, but it's going to require a very short script. And I've gotten feedback that script writing is neither my forte or something we should be doing too much on the stream. So I just want to outline the script for you. And you can go ahead and build it, Connor. And because you're now a coder, you can come back in a month and show off the actual script.
Yes,
sounds good?
Will do.
Yes. Cool. So the first trigger is going to be so I went to portfolio updates. I said, when the status is approved, go ahead and run this automation, right? And you're right that usually what we would want is just update record, right? We would go to update record. We would find the record. Actually, we would find records. Right, and I think I want to put this one over. So,
well, you don't actually need to do that because I'm referencing that record in that profile update table.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you can. Oh, you have the record ID, so I can literally go update record.
Correct.
Go to
and then select the record ID from the profile updates table, portfolio updates table.
Yeah, so you look up the record ID. Okay, that totally makes sense, right? So you're saying Airtable record ID.
So it's not that one. It's
not that one. Yeah, I got you.
I think it's called case study link or something.
case study.
I made this one like back in the day. Horrible naming convention.
Yeah, so you can pull it in, but the challenge you're gonna have is that this, let's say you want to update the image, project image. If you go to step 1,
Yeah, it's called project image.
and you have one here, the hero image. What you're saying here, you want the URL, is that if this field is empty, it's going to overwrite with empty, right? And that's what we want to avoid. So the outline of the script you need to write is essentially this right here. So what you're going to do, actually, you don't need this anymore. So first thing is when you're writing a script in Airtable automations, you can input values from step 1. So here I have the record ID of the update, and then I could also input freelancer ID, which is what we just mentioned, right? So I think you called it case study ID ref. Is that it? Yeah, right here, ID.
Yeah, that's the one.
So what you're going to do is you're going to put portfolio update into that. So this is just a variable that says record ID is this, and then the freelancer ID is this right here from the previous steps, right? Then you're going to pull in the record that you want to update to get all of its values. And essentially, you're just going to create a new variable. We're going to call this let update fields equal, and this should be a string, where we say the fields we want to update. So like this. I'm a little stressed out to do this in front of Matthew because I feel like he's going to be like, no, that's not the most efficient way of doing this. Right? And you could actually probably use a map on update record that goes to each field, checks if there's a value, right, in that field, and if so, it maps it to the name of the field, and then you're going to put that in the update portfolio record. So essentially what this is going to look like is like, let's say I have this right here, right, so like that. Oh, it's deleting both of them. That's frustrating. There we go. And if we look at the update records, update record async, I need to pass in update record, the record ID, which I have from here, right? And then essentially every single field that I want to update, right? And so all you have to do is do if field value, so this would be update record, like that, dot get cell value as string equal 0. If that's true, put in the value. If that's false, don't put in anything. And you do that for every single field value. You're going to be able to create that kind of mapping to each field that you want to update. And this will replicate the updating of the fields. Now, I feel like I've explained that very poorly, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
No, it makes sense to me. You're basically seeing, is this field populated? If not, use what's in the original table right now. Otherwise, use what's in the portfolio update table.
Yeah, so essentially what I would recommend is that when you're creating this mapping right here that you're going to input into update portfolio record, this only looks at the fields you have mapped, right? So if there is no value, so like if your field that you want to update in update record async is not in this mapping, it's not going to say like, oh, let me just move this up a little bit. Can folks see? Boom. Oops, no, it's too big. That's too big. So let's go update record async. Like that. Boom, boom, boom. So let me just move that up a little bit right here. So you should see hello again. So this works the way you want it to work. So if your field is not in that, like right here in this mapping, oh, it's just going to say, like, oh, you don't want to touch that field. So you need to create a variable before that has every field you want to update. And essentially, you're going to want to update every field that has a value in it. So what you're going to do is that for that record, you can go through each field value, check if there's a value in it. If so, add that to your mapping, and then pass that mapping into update record async. And that's only going to update the field for that specific record that are filled out. And that is instead, like here, you would have to put an if, right? So you would say like if, but you can't do that in Airtable automations. So you're essentially doing that in the script. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? And I promise I'll write it for folks next week, right? So I'll write it and then we'll show it off next month.
I'll make a step-by-step tutorial for it.
Okay,
awesome. I'll do a little. I followed it along. I'll make a tutorial on it so that you can kind of follow along the step-by-step process. But it makes sense. Look at this, Aaron. Look at what it's come to. You're teaching people how to code on your channel.
I know. Wow. But I've convinced Jake to give it a try. I feel like that's success. Nice. I'm not allowed to say Jake's favorite tool on the stream. It's part of our rules here. But I feel like, Jake, your favorite tool doesn't allow code. So I'm just going to put that out there. If you do learn how to write some code, you're not going to be able to do that. But you know what we should do next month? When I want to name another tool, I'll bleep it out. I'll have like a bleep. I can do that on the Stream Deck. So when I'm saying like other tools and I'm naming them, I'll just bleep them out. So that'll be all sharp for that. Cool. Okay. So you'll come back with the script next month.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So next, our next topic here is I'm actually really excited about this one. This morning I wrote the 69th version of not version, but I guess like I've sent out 69 newsletters, right? And I have a poor track record on consistency. Right. So what that means is I'm going to write every week. And then frankly, if I look at my numbers 1 week out of 2, I can't do it. Right. I'm not good at it. I either don't feel like I have a good title or I don't have like that ability. And what I realized was that like, let's say you sign up to my newsletter today. Right. You're not going to get any of those 69 previous emails. And they're valid. Like, I think they're good. Like, if I sent them, that means I thought they were good at a certain time. And so I've been wondering about how do I send those new subscribers existing pieces, right? And the challenge I have here is that my newsletter lives in review. And so all of my subscribers end up there. And some weeks I do send out a newsletter and some I don't. So I have actually a secondary mailing list in Mailer Lite, which is everyone who's signed up to the Essential Guide to Airtable. If you said you want to sign up to the newsletter, I send you to review, and there you just get new instances. So I'm wondering, how can I make like a way for people to be like, oh, I just signed up. Maybe I put them into a drip, right? Where I don't know how to make it such that I get value from those 70 other pieces without making like this really complex system. So I offer it up as a question, and people call this evergreen newsletters, right? So this idea of you take content and you repurpose it to new subscribers. So Connor, I'd love to get your thoughts on how I could do this, both from like a philosophy standpoint. How do I make sure that like it's valuable to people, but also from like a systems perspective, how do I orchestrate this so I'm not like managing 5 systems?
Okay, good question. I have no idea. So I think okay, if I just off the top of my head, I think the way that most people approach it is like, if you sign up to a newsletter, you can still get access to all of the other newsletters through a website, gated content, whatever. So I'm pretty sure if I like signed up to your newsletter now, I would also be able to check out all of the previous ones that you've written on review, correct?
That's true, but like, let's be honest, how many people do that, right? You sign up to a newsletter, like, yeah, like people can, I can give the link to like, right? Like, you know, so here, let me just kind of drop the link, right? You can go here, and this lives on my website, right? So I do get the SEO value, about 75% of my mailing list comes from people reading existing issues, right? That said, like what I expect people to do is they read one, they subscribe, but then like they never actually get value from that piece I wrote about, 5 months ago, because like there's 70 pieces. They're not going to read through each one. And there is a good question of how do I make sure that I'm not just spamming them with things they don't care about, but that they're also getting the new issues.
So I might be wrong, but one newsletter that I follow that is really good is Trends. I don't know if you've heard of that one. And so I might be completely wrong. If I am sorry, but I do have a feeling that he recycles some of his newsletter, that they like
Okay.
are on a cycle, so that you might over the course of a year get the same email twice.
Wow.
So he
Okay.
has like different, yeah. So so yeah, it's, by the way, it's a great newsletter. I highly recommend checking it out. But basically, you just get a weekly newsletter on a certain topic. So he's talked about no-code marketplaces, all that kind of stuff. And it just cycles through. Now, I might be wrong about that. He might just be creating new content all the time. But I have a feeling that I've gotten the same email like 2 or 3 times, which I personally don't think is a problem, because it's a kind of like a nice reminder about a certain topic.
Right.
So the way that you could potentially reuse it is kind of see what newsletters have historically done really well for you,
Right.
and then add them to your cycle of emails that you resend over time.
Right. So, okay, the idea would be that you are a new subscriber. I automatically put you into a drip of, say, my top 10, and I let you know, like, hey, by the way, for your first 10 weeks, you're going to receive an email every Wednesday, and every other week when I'm not publishing, you're going to get, the top 10, whatever, over time or something like that. Now, a question for everyone, and Kyle, it's a great suggestion.
I agree with Kyle. That's a good tip.
But how do I unsubscribe people? Because review doesn't offer a drip, right? It has no drip mechanism, and that's where I write and send the newsletter. How do I do, like, if you unsubscribe from the drip, do you unsubscribe from review? Right? Like, how do I manage these multiple lists? Like right now, if you sign up to the Essential Guide to Airtable, I put you into MailerLite, and that has drip mechanism. Maybe if you subscribe from review, I put you into that like drip functionality. But then if you unsubscribe from this, do I unsubscribe you from my weekly newsletter as well? How do I manage that? How do you think about it?
Okay, so in that particular use case, I think there are probably a few ways that you could do it. I've seen certain newsletters, when you unsubscribe from them, they actually give you the option to like only unsubscribe from certain types of emails. So I think something like, can't remember which one it is, but they're like, are you sure you want to unsubscribe from all of our emails or just some of our emails? And so in your case, if someone wants to unsubscribe from that drip that they signed up to, but not all of the other emails, what you could do is add an unsubscribe button at the bottom of your email and then redirect them to like a landing page in Webflow where they can select from like checkboxes what if they want to unsubscribe from all or just unsubscribe from certain lists. And then you could set up a workflow in Zapier that basically removes them from all of the newsletters that they have ticked.
That's actually a really good idea. I really like that idea. I guess I could dynamically create that URL based on what I know people are already subscribed to. So just make that like unsubscribe page a little more dynamic. I think that's a really good idea, where when you sign up, I let you know that you're both in a drip of my best and of like the weekly Wednesday when that's available. Right? When I do publish it, you're going to get that one as well. But that said, like if you get that email, that reader, like I don't control that unsubscribe link, right? So I think it's like a little bit of a. I know ConvertKit does this very well, right? They both have the unsubscribe and the publishing aspect to it. So it might be just like a question of migrating to ConvertKit. But I do have 70 pieces that would have to migrate, right? Which, is definitely a challenge. And So I think there's some suggestions here. So one suggestion from Jeremy is, like a best of. The challenge with the best of, I think is a good point, is like if you've been subscribed for 50 pieces, right? Like it's kind of unfair to you to have this like recurring section of best of articles. It doesn't solve the problem that people are not discovering the old ones. I do think that's a good idea. Maybe what I could do is if I'm not publishing that week, I just send a different email that has links to past good ones, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this for a small newsletter.
I mean, I think if you can't publish for whatever reason throughout the week, you can definitely resend an older one. I know heaps of people do that. Like they just recycle content, might make small changes and stuff like that. And like I said, like if I get like another email, like an interesting email, gets sent again, like I don't mind that. Like, especially because all of your emails are quite educational. So it's not like you're trying to sell anyone anything. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting use case. Is there like, I don't know, in MailerLite, I'm pretty sure you can see whether or not someone has opened an email.
The thing is, I don't actually send email from MailerLite. I send it all from Review. MailerLite is just like a repository of emails. So I wish I had the bleep, because if I had the bleep, I would say like I've cluster effed my whole mailing thing pretty significantly because all my emails live in MailerLite, and like that's everyone who's ever taken the Essential Guide to Airtable, and then I have a flow from MailerLite into Review when you opt into my newsletter, right? I don't know what to do. I'm like so afraid of touching it, to be honest, because I don't know if I could send email to these people who have signed up to the Essential Guide to Airtable. I don't know how to drip emails to them. Do I make them like sign up for my newsletter again? I don't know. But it sounds like the best thing to do would be either to recycle existing content on an off week, to be like, hey, no newsletter this week, but here's my most popular post from 6 months ago or before. Or where I do like a parallel drip where you either get the weekly email on Wednesdays or you get that like drip of content and then maybe you catch up eventually to new content.
Yeah. I think there are a few suggestions that people have made. Like Kyle's suggestion, I think is the best. Like an extra opt-in for, do you want to receive the top 10 newsletters that came before this one? I think that's honestly probably the best way to catch people up on ideas, on like your newsletters that they may have missed. What's this one?
So Joel has a really good one where you loop through, like you tag people as they've received a specific newsletter. And then if they have received it, you kind of cycle them through. Like, so you're a new subscriber, I essentially give you a 20-week drip of my best articles. And as you're getting them, like I tag that you've received them. I don't know, Joel, what tool would I use to do that? Because would I have to then just kind of create my own tags and then cycle through? But I will definitely use the like off weeks, just send something else that has, hey, no newsletter this week, but here are links of the week and 5 good articles from last week. So I think that's a really good idea as well.
So I'm pretty sure, so I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure in MailerLite, you can actually find out through the API if someone opened an email or not. And so you could set up a workflow that if email is opened, tag them with like the red newsletter 1 tag.
Right.
And then you can build filters based off that. Wow, that sounds like such a project. Gee.
Yeah. Okay, well, listen, I appreciate everyone's ideas. If you have, so I'm talking to Stephen O'Grady later about this. If you're interested in helping us build that workflow, reach out to me on Twitter. I'd love some help. And what I promise everyone is once we build it, once we get some kind of structure or suggestion, I promise everyone I'll open source it. We'll come on the stream, we'll build it, we'll show it off to everyone, and we'll include it in the newsletter. So we're recycling content about recycling content. That is like the most meta we could ever get. So I appreciate everyone's suggestions. Joel, Jeremy, Kyle, Steven, really appreciate all of the tips. Matthew, that'll be the bar. If Matthew thinks it's a good project, I think I'll be very impressed with myself and what we've built. So promise to everyone, I will come show it off on the stream once we have it done. And yeah, I'm really excited. I think like, I can't believe we've written 70 issues of Automate All the Things and people are still reading it. So I'm really excited.
That's so good.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's just hard sometimes to write every week. I just need to figure out a mechanism where I can keep up the cadence, because I've unfortunately tied this stream to the newsletter. So this is how I, tell people about when this stream is. So that might be something I've done as a mistake. Cool. Okay. We have 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Boop. To talk about no-code projects. So people have been... I tweeted about this yesterday. I was looking for no-code projects. So let me share my screen with you, Connor. And, I couldn't pick across all of these amazing projects. So what I thought we'd do is just like, let's highlight some that people built recently. So let me just go to my notifications here. I had one open up. So yeah, let's just kind of go through them. I was really impressed by these because some of these are marketplaces. So we've got this Give Charities New Zealand, which was really cool. I thought this one was really, really cool.
Steven's in the chat.
Oh, Steven, amazing. Yeah, let me drop the link to the chat.
So let me tell you something about that one. So Steven and Alice, I think they tried building this with developers at first, and then they ended up diving into the no-code world and building this site here. They've got some pretty cool integrations. So you can now donate directly through this integration called DonorBox. It's phenomenal. But more importantly, they've been working on this for like a little bit over a year. And like Steven has just like gone from knowing nothing about no-code tools to just like knowing so much about no-code. Like, I'm pretty sure he is like doing some consulting for people on how to build these platforms yourself. And he's pretty much done all of that within the space of a year. And obviously this is a phenomenal use case as well.
So Steven, if you're in the chat.
Absolutely legendary.
Yeah. So is DonorBox like a third, did Steven build DonorBox, or is this like a third party that allows you to kind of dynamically...
It's a third party tool.
Oh, wow. Okay. And you can talk to us about, do you know the stack on this? Is this like a Webflow CMS, and then this is just like a little bit of custom
Airtable,
code?
Zapier.
Okay.
Yeah, so Webflow, Airtable, Zapier, Parabola, so the standard stack. Then DonorBox is in there, which does that. Now, another thing, so you can donate to individual charities. Another thing that you can do that is like amazing is, so they've now registered as a charity. So if you go to the charity types, you can actually donate to an entire fund. So say, for example, you want to support children charities as a whole, you can donate to the Chive Fund. Try the health and well-being one. Oh, no, there you go. There you go. So now you can donate to the fund as a whole, and they will distribute those donations across all of the charities within that sector.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so it's pretty good. Like, it's pretty advanced from a technical like standpoint, but also just real good use case of no-code tools.
Yeah, let me just check out DonorBox. So DonorBox, whoops. Interesting. So Donor is almost like the Stripe for you can spread. So you essentially, they can take the money and then spread it across a bunch of people. But this is like Stripe for charities, essentially.
Correct.
Amazing.
And I think the original idea was to do it for like one charity at a time. Like, so I think the idea behind DonorBox is you have a charity and you have a payment method on your website. But what they did was they were just like, there are a whole bunch of charities that can't afford websites. So they're like, let's just build this site with the Webflow CMS so that everyone at least has a landing page. And then we will integrate their donation functionality onto their CMS. So I'm pretty sure they give you a script that you can then embed onto your site. And it's then dynamically, you can like dynamically tag it in the Webflow CMS.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I'm glad we took the time. So this is a really cool build. So Stephen, I'd love to see it. Give us, if you want to write for, speaking of the newsletter, if you want to write for the newsletter, I'd love to see how you build. I should definitely put you in touch with the folks at Carefree who would love to learn about something like this as well. So I'm glad we showed this off. We have 1 minute to show off all the others. So this one from Tanya was really cool, where it talked about how to use Typeform, Squarespace, and a bunch of others to manage an event. So do recommend everyone checking this one as well. I remember reading this like earlier today. Very, very cool build. So we're going to drop that. Boom. What else was really cool? There was one from Kaylee, which was Habit Tracker built on AutoCode. So this is like a text-based auto tracker. Habit tracker. So you can say like, hey, did you wake up before 5 a.m. this morning or 6 a.m.? Did you journal? Did you eat poorly? All built in AutoCode, which I thought was really cool. So we're going to have Kaylee on to talk a little bit about AutoCode. Any Outseta? I haven't used Outseta. I've heard great things. So if you've used it, let me know. And I'd love to do a stream about Outseta as well, where they did like this kind of one course/Discord community. Yeah, those were the kind of no code projects.
Yeah,
really quickly. Have you used it?
So unfortunately, I committed to MemberStack, so it is a MemberStack competitor, and I am loyal to Duncan and Tyler until Webflow membership comes along. No, but one thing that I do want to say is that Jeff, the founder, is such a champ. Like, he will help you out. He won't build it for you in case anyone gets any wrong ideas, but he'll help out. He's such a champ, and he's also quite active on Twitter. So I think definitely subscribe to him. Hey, like, I had a look at some of those projects. Like, honestly, it's so amazing seeing what people are building. Maybe we can dedicate like an entire segment in the next episode where we can go over those projects in a bit more time, and we can also get a few more submissions, because like, the thing that I love about this the most is like, people are not just building job boards. You know, that was kind of like how everyone in the no code space started off. It's like, let's build like a million niche job boards. And now people are like supporting charities. They are building habit trackers and all those kind of things. And that kind of just goes to show what is possible now. You know?
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely right. And so yeah, folks, keep building. We'll be back next month. I'll be back next week. I can't say what we're going to cover. So I'll be back next week. Not with you. You're not coming back, Connor. You're coming back next month. We can only handle a week of you a month. You're too strong. You're too important to have you on every week. But so congrats again, Connor, on buying a house. And thank you all
I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? Oh, man. 1 second. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm just saying congratulations for the house again. And
thank you. No, it's very exciting.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Well, this was great fun.
This was so much fun. We'll be back next month. Thanks. You'll be in your new house probably. I might come see you in Ottawa until then. And for everyone, I really appreciate you coming on. And I'll be back next week. I'll share more details on that shortly. But yeah, thanks again. Thanks to everyone for joining. Thanks to you, Connor. Have a great week, y'all. Peace out.
See ya.
Is that what we say? Peace out? I don't know.